Dear readers, you must already know the purpose of my return home this time, partly to visit my mother, and partly with the hope of finding a companion to travel with. My visit to mother is now done. Now I seek a friend, but in this land, how many are truly kindred spirits? Finding a friend is difficult enough, let alone someone to accompany me on a long journey. To set off, to travel, with each step comes something new. Every morning and evening, we encounter unfamiliar sights. Each moment brings us to new, distant places. What more could one wish for? Just thinking about it is enough to stir excitement and longing in my heart. Alas, what could be sadder than having the youth, the strength, and the passionate heart to explore, yet having to live a dull, patterned life, digging burrows by day, feasting and chattering by night? I don't want to reach the end of my days, regretting never knowing what lies beyond those vast fields and how life unfolds elsewhere. I have two older brothers, born in the same brood as me. The three of us were brought by mother to live in separate burrows last year. As I began my search for a travel companion, I first thought of my second brother. I came to visit him. The sight of his burrow entrance already gave me a sense of disappointment. It was small, ragged, dirty like a wormhole, and as I crawled in, clumps of roots brushed against my head, just like entering a wild, abandoned tunnel. The deeper I went, the damper and colder it became. When I saw him, I was startled. In the dim silence, I had to look closely to make out his face. He was so thin and frail that I thought if I gave him a light kick, he'd fly 15 yards away. Hearing my footsteps, he panicked, flailing his legs and antennae in confusion, running around in circles, not knowing where to go. Only after I called out several times did he recognize me. Then he calmed down and stood still, though his antennae still trembled. Seeing how healthy and strong I was, sleek and black like a grease pillar, he seemed even more afraid. His antennae trembled more violently. It was both laughable and pitiable. I asked,
"Brother, are you sick? Why do you look so scrawny?"
He grimaced and said,
"Keep your voice down. Don't shout. It makes my head spin. No, I'm not sick. I've always been like this. Where have you been all this time that everyone thought you were dead?"
I laughed.
"Dead? How could I die? I've been far away. I came back this time to visit Mother, and you, and also to invite you on a journey with me."
He asked in horror.
"A journey? Where?"
I joked loudly.
"To faraway lands, far away."
That terrified him. His antennae drooped. He collapsed and muttered, "Far away death it's death." What misery! Why had my brother become so fearful, so anxious that he seemed ready to faint at a loud word? He wasn't born that way. When we were young, we were all equally strong. Here's how it happened. After moving to his own burrow, one day he wandered into the vegetable garden. While standing under a mustard green leaf, a warbler bird perched above accidentally defecated on him. My brother flapped his wings, cursed, not knowing who had done it. The bird, indifferent, simply flicked its tail and resumed pecking at worms on the leaf. Hearing the curses, the bird turned around. A quarrel broke out. My brother accused the bird of pooping on him. The bird denied it by then. The mess was already flicked off. They argued, then fought. The warbler, tiny as a jackfruit seed, with legs like incense sticks, and a beak like a noodle strand, and yet, despite my brother's sharp jaws and strong limbs, he lost. He fled in terror, while the bird chased him, pecking viciously. He tripped and fell, but the bird didn't stop. It was a brutal beating. He barely crawled home, wounded, wings torn and body blooded. It took days before he regained consciousness. Since then, the mere sound of wind outside his burrow made him tremble. Fearing the warbler had returned, he didn't dare go out. He only crept out late at night to nibble on old grass, starving all day. Thus, he grew weaker. At this rate, he'd die quietly in his burrow one day. Eventually, he came to. I didn't want to say anything more, especially not joke, for fear he'd faint again. I went outside and picked the freshest grass to bring him. I comforted him gently. Once he seemed stable, I cautiously asked why. Back then, he hadn't fought back, raised his claws and retreated toward the burrow while defending himself. Surely the warbler wouldn't have been able to do much. But my brother just shook his head, showing no sign of regaining his former courage. I left silently, without any clear thoughts. What could I hope for when he trembled even at loud voices? There was no chance he'd join me. Then I went to visit my eldest brother. His burrow was grand and neat. He clearly lived well. I knew his nature, a gourmet, strict with manners and hierarchy, quick to nitpick. I greeted him. His face was stern and angry. I explained that after a long and difficult journey, risking my life, I had come back to see him, yet he looked at me with such coldness. He said sarcastically,
Well, you still remember your manners to visit your brother. Much appreciated.
I replied,
Brother, no matter where I go, I always remember that we were born together, raised by mother.
He scoffed.
Remember? Then why did you visit the second brother first instead of coming here? Have you no sense of order? So he was angry that I had forgotten the hierarchy. No wonder he looked so sour. I wanted to argue back. After all, I had travelled widely and wasn't going to bow to outdated customs. But remembering I came here to invite him, I swallowed my pride and explained.
I understand, but since second brother is sick and I passed his home first, I thought I should visit him briefly. Surely that's reasonable.
But he wasn't pleased. He snapped.
Where have you been all these years?
Travelling, I answered. Travelling, for business. No business, I said. I just wanted to broaden my mind. He sneered.
Traveling just makes your legs sore. Only fools do that. Meanwhile, who tends the ancestral graves? Who performs the rituals? Nowadays, everyone wants to go explore. Such disrespect. You're unfilial. Do you hear me?
I was furious, but laughed quietly. Such words, only mothers should say them. But she understood me, and had rejoiced to see her son wander the world. I thought, if our ancestors knew, they'd probably be tired of descendants who cling to land and do nothing to honor their name. My brother, still young, already behaved like an old man. Anyway, I stated my view.
To grow wiser, one must travel. As our forebears said, a day on the road brings a bushel of knowledge. They didn't teach us to sit at home forever. So I came back, firstly to visit you, and secondly to invite you to join me on an adventure.
He shouted.
You insult me. You insult me.
Then charged at me, but I knew he wouldn't dare touch me. I was much stronger. He just knocked forwards with me and glared.
I was annoyed but kept calm, a cold calm that showed disdain.
I held my head high, didn't say goodbye, and walked away, tail raised in contempt. I had left my narrow-minded brother with proud defiance. He could only stew in rage, helpless to strike me. I went looking for other acquaintances, but most were idle types. Some said they were the only child and couldn't leave home. Some turned pale at the word travel and bowed out. Others asked blankly, how many days would such a trip take? I didn't bother replying. One evening, I stood by the pond. The water reflected the sunset sky, vast, inspiring, calling to the wanderer's heart. Suddenly, behind me, came a commotion. I turned to see a mole cricket Dieb Trui fighting to water beetle women. They were shouting and attacking, biting and scratching wildly. Trui stayed calm, blocking blows with his claws and striking back. His hooked pincers looked like bronze maces. I watched, impressed. I had always looked down on mole crickets, awkward, long-bodied, always shirtless. But now, seeing this swift, brave fighter, I realized not to judge by appearances. Though outnumbered, Trui held his ground and struck hard. But the noise drew more water beetles from the nearby fields. Trui, seeing the odds, leapt into the water and swam across. Safe on our side, he turned back, raising his claws in defiance. Enraged, the beetles flew across en masse. Trui hadn't expected their speed. Before he could react, they swarmed him, biting and clawing. He fell, they piled on. This was no scuffle. It could end in death. I rushed in. The beetles fled. Trui lay motionless. I carried him to my burrow and revived him with water. Gradually, he recovered, though covered in bruises. He told me his story. He had once lived on a distant field. One day, he moved to a lush riverside. But it was inhabited by water beetles who didn't like strangers. They harassed him daily, yet Trui was defiant. He argued, fought, never backed down. They grew wary of his courage. Today's ambush had been planned, not a chance brawl, but a punishment. Trui thanked me profusely. I told him to stay and heal. In the following days, I grew fond of Trui. He was cheerful, witty, and full of life. Most of all, he too loved to travel. Though young, he had seen much. I invited him on my journey, suggesting we explore the distant horizon instead of returning to old meadows. Trui cried out in joy and agreed immediately. We became sworn brothers. From then on, Trui stayed in my burrow and called me brother. I called him little brother. We vowed to live and die together. We prepared for the journey. One late autumn day, Trui and I set off. The pond water was blue, the grass soft, white clouds filled the sky, and a gentle wind blew, urging us forward. Thus, I left home for the second time.